Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Giant Take podcast. I guess the two-part series here of the preview of the Senior Bowl and now recapping those practices. Now, the game is going to happen over the weekend. We will get to it at some point and, kind of talk about if there were any standouts in the game, but it's kind of like the Pro Bowl. No one really watches the game, but if you're younger people like we are, I know adults aren't really watching this a lot, or the old football fans are like, this is not what it used to be, or I never watched a Pro Bowl. We tune into those games and the dodgeball stuff and like all that fun stuff. We tune into the Senior Bowl practices. We're not really watching the game itself. However, that will still take place on February 1st, which I believe is Saturday. So we'll tune into that. Can I get my dates correct? Yes, I can. February 1st is Saturday. So let's go through the Senior Bowl practice and talk about those risers and falls, the way that Alex kind of noted it in our outline. He did most of the work for this one. So, Alex, I will toss it to you first to find out how you're doing. And whenever you're ready, you can start us off with our list.
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. I think it's the Pro Bowl. I just want to touch on it quickly. It's just it's just not enjoyable for me anymore. I'd say it's always been kind of a half-ass kind of competition, just like the NBA All-Star game or just like any All-Star game, to be completely honest. If it were up to me, I'd rather have an extra week of just regular football and not have to watch some of these, guys just go out there and jog around for, 40 minutes or whatever it's going to be for the flag football. But yeah, it's not my favorite weekend of the year for football. And obviously it doesn't make it any better that the weekend after is probably my least favorite Super Bowl matchup that it could have been. So all in all, not great from that standpoint, but Senior Bowl wise is one of my favorite activities of the offseason, Josh, just because we get a lot of guys coming in who aren't necessarily the top cream of the crop prospects. They're not guys who are looking to be taken in the top 5 or usually top 10. Oftentimes it's guys who we're going to see on day 2, a lot of times day 3, who have the chance to really push themselves up draft boards. And for certain players from smaller schools actually get the opportunity to go up against some of the higher level talent from the bigger schools in the SEC or Big Ten or whatnot. So it's a really great opportunity. I think it's a great scouting opportunity, and the Giants, whether it's been under Joe Shane's regime or with Dave Gettleman, have been very much Senior Bowl focused when looking at draft class. I mean, Drew Phillips, for example, Tyrone Tracy, both guys who participated at the Senior Bowl last year and obviously made big impacts for the Giants this season. So a very important few days, especially the practices, the game, not as much, but I think it's always a really fun experience. And I know our friends from Talking Giants have been down there for the past few days, Josh, and it looks like they've been having some fun in Mobile. So I think it's a really good event, and I definitely would love to go down there one year. Obviously, it's tough with us in school and in college, but it's definitely something that I really look forward to doing at some point in my life, Josh. But I know I just ranted a lot for a few minutes and didn't actually get into what we were going to talk about. So I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll let you kind of get into it with some of the risers and fallers.
Sure, I'll get into it now. Wasn't what I expecting when I did the toss, but that's all right. Wide receiver Jalen Dole to start us off from Iowa State. Clearly the best wide receiver on the field that we saw throughout practices, or I guess, we watched through a different lens, not being able to be there. So other people and scouts saw it along with our friends at Talking Giants. The speed and athleticism really impressive against tight press coverage. Now, actually, I do want to start with this. I didn't even mention this, but as we go through these players, if you're new here or if you're a returning listener or watcher of our show, you know that we like to debate on the show and kind of like do oriented talk back and forth and whatever it may be. And I did say this again for our preview. I just want to make it clear for the recap as well. We're going to try and get as many players as we in as we can and talk about those guys. And so the reasoning for that is because we want you to be informed on all of these players and know how they did, just like we did in the preview, to know who to look forward to. So for that reason, we're not going to really kind of have that back and forth. We're just going to give you your players so you know what the deal is. I'm sure you probably didn't care either way if I explained that or not, but I just wanted to give everyone the heads up anyway. All right, so let's get into it now with our second player, tight end Elijah Arroyo from Miami, a guy that I saw. Alex has this like bet. He like puts money on it. How many times? Not really, but you know, we're not promoting any gambling here. But he does say after every episode how many times, or if I mention Syracuse at least once in every show, and it's already in my background, but I'm mentioning it here in the final game of the season when Syracuse knocked Miami out of the national championship, yada, yada, yada. We saw Elijah Arroyo a lot in that game, and he was all over the field. And just like he was at Miami, he was at the Senior Bowl a very exceptional player with his footwork, burning defenders along the seam, and also very good at yards after catch. So if you want to see more tape from him, you can go check out that Syracuse game for sure. Wide receiver Jack Beach, or Betch from TCU. Great separation. Also good contested catch winner down the field. Someone we talked about from Marshall, the edge rusher, in previewing this game, or excuse me, this Senior Bowl. Back-to-back guys we mentioned. But Green consistently won his reps, even knocking over several offensive tackles. If you saw Talking Giants on their social media, they had a great job showing those videos of the O-line, D-line one-on-ones and getting that on film, which is really cool. And I said back-to-back because we have another edge rusher that we touched on, Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. I believe we talked about him. If we didn't, I previewed him by myself then, I guess, behind the scenes. But great acceleration off the edge, rewarding with the only strip sack of the day in those O-line, D-line days, or singular day that they worked out. I guess should I just go through it, or do you want to take over? I know there's only a few more positive players left before we go into failures.
Yeah. I'll take over from here, give you a little bit of a break. Mike Green, I just want to touch on him. He's looking like the MVP of practice on the defensive side of the ball. Some of his clips that we're seeing is absolutely insane, and he's definitely risen his draft stock dramatically from these few days of practices. I'll move on to the final three guys here we have for risers. The first one is a cornerback, Quincy Riley, out of Louisville. The Senior Bowl, at least the practice, is a very difficult place to play cornerback, just because a lot of the drills are not in favor of the defense, and particularly in those wide receiver DB drills, it is not very favorable for the cornerbacks. But he was able to really disrupt defenders efficiently, especially at the line of scrimmage, and he also broke up quite a few catches at the catch point for some contested catch opportunities with guys like Jalen Knoll or Jack Beck from TCU, who we talked about earlier. So he had a pretty good day 2 and 3, a little bit rocky on day 1, but it was still overall a rising performance from Riley out of Louisville. Moving to the O-line now, Miles Frazier out of LSU, who has showed both flexibility at guard and tackle, which he both excelled at in the season and also during the Senior Bowl practices, which was very impressive. And the other guy, a Talking Giants favorite, a Justin Pennick favorite in particular, O-lineman Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State, small school guy, stood up very well against some of the major competition at the Senior Bowl. So a guy who's definitely going to be boosted up draft boards dramatically from his few days of practice as well, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. And what we'll do right now is we'll take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about a few failures, players that maybe had higher levels on the draft board and maybe after these practices might drop a little bit. And then we'll also get into some guys in the East-West Shrine Bowl, because remember, that is happening simultaneously as well. We'll get into some players who had positive impacts during those practices too. Maybe some of them might affect the New York Giants and the way they draft coming up in just a few moments. We'll take a break.
All right, back now with our fallers from the Senior Bowl. I know we usually call it winners and losers, but I think it's a little bit too harsh now, Josh. Maybe I've just gotten soft, but I think I'm changing it to risers and fallers from now on. And starting with the first one being a QB, Jalen Milroe out of Alabama. Day one of the Senior Bowl. I don't know if you saw a lot of the clips, Josh, but it was very bad in the nicest way possible. I think that's the nicest way I could put it. The accuracy was completely off. He was barely able to complete a pass on day one of practice. Day 2 and 3, he got a little bit better, but still was outshined by a lot of the other quarterbacks on the field and just did not have a good performance whatsoever, and definitely fallen in terms of his draft stock. Going to the defensive side of the ball now, edge rusher Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. He's actually projected, or was a projected top 100 pick, but he really couldn't get going in Mobile, winning very few reps, if any at all, over the first couple days of practice. Had a slightly better day 3, but overall he definitely hurt himself in these past few days at the Senior Bowl. And then the last guy, offensive lineman Emory Jones Jr. out of LSU. The team captain for LSU really struggled going at all in this and any of these practices, consistently getting beat by some of the more powerful pass rushers. And he did not have a very good few days either. And his stock has also most likely fallen for April. Josh, you got some stuff for us, some risers, I guess, for the East-West Shrine Bowl.
Yes, I do, Alex. Let's go into the top performers from those practices at the East-West Shrine Bowl, happening simultaneously with Senior Bowl week. The less notable bowl for college prospects, but still some bright spots in there, I guess you could say. And we'll start out with Jordan Phillips, a defensive tackle from Maryland, 6'1", 318 pounds. Now, he wasn't able to showcase a sack throughout his college career, but he was a force to be reckoned with. His explosiveness off the line and powerful hand usage was really a big deal for scouts watching him at the Shrine Bowl. We move from a defensive tackle to an edge rusher. Elijah Roberts out of SMU, 6'3", 290 pounds. He was really impressive throughout the week. His combination of size with the burst at 6'3" and almost 300 pounds, a really strong frame. He was able to really walk offensive tackles back right into the quarterback. He was also showcasing his quickness and distribution with the inside disruption, I should say, off the line with those inside moves coming off the edge. Moving from an edge rusher to a cornerback, and by the way, these are positions of need for the New York Giants. That's why I'm shouting out these guys specifically. There were other performers as well as at the Shrine Bowl, but these are guys at position groups that the Giants still need to improve their depth at, which I guess is every position, but these are the most notable. And that one of them is cornerback, Kansas cornerback Kobe Bryant. 5'11", 171 pounds. Bryant, one of the standout quarterbacks for the East team. He was showcasing his impressive physicality and aggressiveness in man coverage. His confidence and tough play has really drawn comparisons to one Jalen Ramsey. Maybe shorter at 5'11" and 171 pounds, but still able to have that competitive nature and a solid ball hawk. And he showed that at the cornerback position. Alex, well, you might be counting up the money right now, because another top performer was quarterback Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. This is funny that he gets brought up, because something, my roommate and I discussed the other day was we were talking about, will Kyle McCord be one of the top 5, top 6 quarterbacks drafted in this year's draft? And you talk about the fall of Jalen Milroe. He slots right in there. Okay, you want to talk about Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, we know, are top 5 players. You have Jalen Milroe maybe in there. You have Jackson Dart maybe in there. I feel like after that point, it could be an open, shout, unless you want to unmute and tell me someone. You can't even think of anyone, because Kyle McCord, is there. The former Ohio State quarterback comes to Syracuse in his senior year, dominates at 6'2", 224. His explosive arm strength and ability to throw in anticipation. He's just really good moving inside and outside of the pocket, as you give me that smirk of, please stop talking about how good Kyle McCord is, but I won't, because he might be a top 100 pick in this year's NFL draft. We move from McCord to Ahmed Hassanin, an edge rusher from Virginia Tech, 6'3", 273 pounds. Impressive during those pass rush drills with his burst and power off the edge. Another player. Oh, you're going to hate me. Jackson Meeks, wide receiver, Syracuse. One of the top receivers in practice, 6'2", 216 pounds. Strong hands to win contested catches, and obviously targeted by Kyle McCord in team drills with that chemistry that they have. He also can be used deep in one-on-one drills. He got open and separated from other standout wide receivers in this class. Someone that the New York Giants can look to draft late, or he might not even be drafted, and you can take him in the undrafted free agency window if he doesn't end up getting drafted. Raheem Sanders, a running back out of South Carolina. The Giants need depth at that running back position. 6'4", 224 pounds. He showed off his impressive combination of speed and power. He also was able to hit holes with authority, break some tackles, make plays in space. The final guy I have, back to the O-line, Drew Kendall, a center out of Boston College, actually the son of NFL offensive lineman Pete Kendall. Drew is 6'4", 305 pounds. He's shown strong technique and impressive strength in pass protection. A nice job being able to neutralize some of the D tackles at the Shrine Bowl. And Alex, after suffering through two Syracuse players getting shout out in the notable performers in the Shrine Bowl practices, congratulations, you made it to the end of that.